Hello everyone and welcome to Speed Cafe's preview of the 2025 United States Grand Prix, proudly brought to you by Ford Ranger. It takes you and a Ranger. We are back. F1 is back for the United States Grand Prix, round 19 of the 2025 F1 season. I'm on the ground in Australia again, sadly not in Austin this weekend like I was in Singapore, but I can tell you Austin is a magnificent race to get to. If you've never been and you want to add a race to your bucket list, head to Austin. I've been there a couple of times. It's a fantastic track, fantastic city, and definitely one I highly recommend experiencing at one point in your F1 life. Now, the US Grand Prix, it's 56 laps of a 5.513 kilometer circuit at the Circuit of the Americas, one of the most popular tracks on the calendar. Sweeping corners in the first sector. You've got tight hairpins and that magnificent turn one. So steep and always a joy to watch the cars go right up into that sharp left-hander into the sweeping first sector. An amazing circuit to watch cars race at, and the drivers absolutely love it. It is the 13th running at the Circuit of the Americas, the 46th race at the United States Grand Prix. And of course, it's complicated, the history of F1 in the US, but under the moniker of United States Grand Prix, this is the 46th running of that race. At the Circuit of the Americas, 83% of races at this track have been won from the front row. So it's a race where qualifying is quite important, but the last two races at the Circuit of the Americas haven't been won from the front row. The only two times that has ever happened. Max Verstappen in 2023 won from 6th on the grid, while last year Charles Leclerc won from 4th on the grid, opening up a bit of a possibility for cars lower than the front row to potentially win at this circuit. 67% of chances, or 67% chance of a safety car, I should say, at the Circuit of the Americas. So that's another one to keep in mind, as is the fact that it's a sprint weekend this weekend in Austin, the 4th of 2025, the first since Belgium. And in the previous two runnings of a sprint race at the Circuit of the Americas, they were both won by Max Verstappen, who of course won the last sprint race in Belgium. He's a bit of a sprint race specialist, is Max, so keep an eye out for him, obviously, as well as he keeps pushing for the championship, which we'll touch on just a little bit shortly. History at the Circuit of the Americas sees Mercedes having won the most races at this circuit. They've won 5. While Lewis Hamilton has also won 5 races at the Circuit of the Americas, the most of any of the current drivers, although 4 of those with Mercedes, 1 of those with McLaren. He won the very first race in 2012 at the Circuit of the Americas, which is the last time, incidentally, that McLaren won at this racetrack, so keep an eye out for that one. He also holds the record for most US Grand Prix wins in the history of Formula One. He's won 6 in total. He won 1, of course, in 2007, when the race was still held at Indianapolis, while Michael Schumacher second overall on that list with 5, while Ferrari 11 times winners at the United States Grand Prix, McLaren second overall with Lotus with 8 in total there. An Australian has not won the United States Grand Prix since 1980, when Alan Jones in his championship year won at Watkins Glen. The Circuit of Americas, an Australian has finished 3rd on 3 occasions, Mark Webber, in his last ever F1 season in 2013 for Red Bull, while Daniel Ricciardo, also for Red Bull, in 2014 and 2016 finished 3rd at this circuit. Oscar Piastri will be hoping to break that Aussie drought in the United States Grand Prix, as well as the Circuit of the Americas. Now, Oscar coming into this weekend having dropped points to Lando Norris in the championship fight in the last 3 Grand Prix, and he's hoping to maintain his championship lead. He's currently 22 points ahead of Norris and 63 points ahead of Verstappen. But all eyes are going to be on how Piastri reacts now in the remaining races, with so-called papaya rules and everything that we know around that. The Constructors' Championship is done and dusted now for 2025, so it's all about the drivers. And obviously, Oscar was not a happy chappy after what happened in Singapore. He bit his tongue in the press afterwards and has remained quite calm and collected afterwards in true Piastri fashion. But you got to imagine that hunger and desire is still deep inside of him, that he may push back a little bit more against team orders maybe in the remaining few races. So we'll see how that plays out. Lando Norris has outscored Piastri in the last 3 races since his retirement at the Dutch Grand Prix, but maybe not as much as he would have been hoping, of course. 22 points, as I mentioned, so he'll be looking to bounce back. Norris has McLaren's only podium at the Circuit of the Americas since 2012. He finished second at this Grand Prix back in 2023, so he'll be hoping to bounce back. But McLaren, they're in a bit of a winless streak right now. 3 Grand Prix in a row without a win, their longest route of 2025, so they'll be looking to bounce back, although they only finished 4th and 5th at this race last year, so keep that in mind. Max Verstappen, as I said, still in the championship hunt. The last 4 Grand Prix, he's finished in the top 2, of course, winning 2 races in a row in Monza and Baku, and finishing second in Singapore and the Netherlands. He's on a bit of a streak right now as he's pushing for that 5th consecutive championship. He's downplaying it in true Max fashion, but you got to imagine that he is as hungry as ever to keep pushing for that championship. So until he is completely out of the equation mathematically, you can never count out Max as he pushes for victory and the championship continuing on in the remaining few races. As I mentioned, the Constructors' Championship is done and dusted. McLaren securing that in Singapore. But second place is still quite hot and heated right now. Mercedes sitting in second place right now. They are 27 points clear of Ferrari, and Ferrari there are clear of Red Bull by 8 points, who are back in 4th. So 35 points separates second to 4th, with lots on the line there. So we'll see how that battle plays out. Mercedes winning last time out in Singapore. Ferrari yet to win a Grand Prix in 2025. They did get a 1-2 here last year in Austin, so remember that heading into this weekend. And with Williams seemingly all but secure in 5th place in the Constructors' Championship, that puts a lot of eyes now to 6th place in the championship. 4 teams are battling it out for 6th place. Racing Bulls, Aston Martin, Sauber and Haas all separated by 26 points. And we know how vital those lower positions can be in the championship. Prize money, grid position, garage position in Grand Prix in 2026 will be a big key favour for that one there. So look out for that battle heading into not only this weekend in Austin, but the remaining Grand Prix of 2025. It's a decent time, I will say, for Australia and New Zealanders this weekend. If you like getting up early, the race itself, Monday, will be at 6 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Times, 8 a.m. for our Kiwi counterparts, which means if you're up early on a Monday morning heading to work, you can catch this race before you do head off to start the work week next week. For all the updated times and all the previews and everything on the US Grand Prix, if you want to see specifically where and when you can watch the races and the sessions in Australia and New Zealand, head to Speed Cafe to check that out, as well as keeping your eye out on the website and the social media pages across the weekend. We bring you all the results, news, and coverage from this weekend's race. Stick right here to Speed Cafe to keep an eye on all of that, and we look forward to bringing you that coverage for the US Grand Prix.